And good morning, everybody. Hello and welcome. My name's Paul Grogan, and this morning, bright and early in the UK, not so bright, still early, I'm going to be doing a teaching game of Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar, which is a game that was published in 2012 by Czech Games Edition, which is quite scary because people ask me sometimes how long have I been doing work with Czech Games Edition, and I normally say, oh, about 6 or 7 years. Well, I'd been working with CGE like a few years before this game came out, so as you get older, time seems to just, yeah. Anyway, right, so we're going to be playing this on Board Game Arena. Board Game Arena is a website that has a number of implementations of board games. This one is an official implementation, so CGE have sanctioned this and, you know, it's all fine. Board Game Arena is a website that you can play games for free. There are premium memberships available if you want to unlock some extra features. But yeah, and this is it. So we're going to be using the online implementation today. And we're actually going to be doing a 3-player game of it for a couple of reasons. The first reason is a 3-player game is going to be slightly shorter. Also, I'm going to be concentrating on teaching the game rather than playing the game. So my job here is to teach everybody else how to play the game. And also, it actually shows off the dummy player rules as well. Because a lot of people don't like dummy player rules in games. And they go, oh yeah, the game's great, but I don't like the dummy player rules and therefore always play it with the maximum player count. I wanted to show off the dummy player rules in this game so that you could see them. Because if you were thinking of getting this game, but you think, oh, I'm only going to ever play it with 2 or 3 people, at least you're now going to see how the dummy player rules work. Thank you to everybody for joining me in the YouTube chat this morning. Because I'm all about the cult of the new, yes, I'm doing a game from 2012. It doesn't feel that long ago. But I'm joined by a few people this morning. So we'll go from top to bottom on the right hand side. Will, say hello, Will. You'll have to unmute your microphone.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hey, thank you for joining us this morning. Now, you grabbed the last space because it was free an hour ago, which is absolutely fine.
Yep.
But did you just say that you've already played this game?
I have.
Right, okay. So you're not here for the teach. You're here to show them how it's done.
Sure.
Okay, so, which is absolutely fine, as long as Jay and Chrissy don't mind the fact that, yeah, somebody's played it before, so they'll be making slightly more optimal moves about it. Right, next up is Jay from 3 Minute Board Games.
Kia ora koutou, everyone, at GridCon. Yeah, I have not played Tzolk'in. I don't have a bloody clue about this game. I watched Paul's video about 2 years ago. That's about the extent of it, so, yeah.
And forgotten everything, hopefully. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like if you don't play a game after watching a video, it's not exactly going to stick. I remember the spinny things, and that's about it.
Yeah, spinny things, that's about it. Now, this is the first time we've actually spoken in person, but we've interacted a lot on social media. So just let people know a little bit about what you actually do and how big and famous you are.
So 3 Minute Board Games is the premier short review channel on the interwebs for board games. We focus on doing reviews of games in about 3 and a bit minutes. We haven't done Tzolk'in, funnily enough. But yeah, that's kind of our deal, is short form video content. We leave the full rules explaining to people like Paul, who are far, far better at it than I am. I just focus on doing stuff real quick.
Yeah. Now, when I started doing reviews myself, my original aim was to do what's called quick and dirty 5-minute reviews. That soon went out the window, and I now do 15 to 20-minute reviews. But my 5-minute reviews that I used to do was literally me talking at the camera with a couple of shots of the game. Yours are slightly different than that, aren't they?
Yeah, so we focus on stop motion photography. So we take about 120 photos per video, and we animate that, and then I write a really tight script, and then compress that as much as possible. So yeah, there's a lot of little photo tricks and stuff about having cards just appear on the table, and by having cards just appear on the table, it's so much quicker than having someone's hand come in to place them that we can just speed everything up and just max amount of information, shortest amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, if those 3-minute reviews, as you say, they're scripted, they're tight, you watch them, you don't even feel like 3 minutes has passed because, you know, the animated graphics that you use. Basically, if you haven't seen any of Jay's videos, just go on the channel and watch one. Pop on YouTube. It's 3-minute board games. Excellent stuff.
Yeah, we've got Jaws of the Lion in the most recent video. So if you're interested in that one,
just that's on there now. And last but not least, Chrissy.
Morning.
Who again has not played Tzolk'in.
Nope. Not a
But
single
always
game.
wanted to.
Yes. I have a
Yes.
copy in my cupboard, but
Okay.
no, I haven't played it.
Right. So thank you for joining me this morning. And yeah, we're now going to be doing the teach. So if you are watching on YouTube, yeah, thank you very much. You'll probably be sending messages in the chat. I'm going to be concentrating on the teach mainly. I'll have the chat there, but I won't see it. So we're actually using Discord for voice chat this morning, and we're using Discord share screen. I'm hoping this is going to work for the teach. Now, Will, you might find this a little bit unusual, but what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be using Paul's interactive drip feed method for teaching people how to play games at conventions. What that means is basically we're going to start playing as soon as possible. Okay, I'm not going to explain every single rule of the game before you even make your first move. This is going to be a teaching game. So write it off as this game is all about learning how to play. And what that means, Will, is that you're going to know some things about the game before the others know them. But a couple of caveats. I don't want you ever to feel uncomfortable at making any decision without knowing the impact of it. So before you do anything, if you're not sure, and I haven't explained it, say, Paul, what's going to happen if I do this here? Because when I'm using this method physically around the table, I actually let people just do stuff. We show them what happens, and you go, well, if I'd have known that, at which point I say, right, well, okay, well, now you know that. You know, if you build a castle in a swamp, it will sink. Let's undo that and build it on top of a hill instead. Obviously, on Board Game Arena, we can't do that. We can't do any undos. So I don't want you to ever feel uncomfortable about making a decision. Feel free to ask as many questions as you want along the way, but I'm not going to explain everything in absolute minute detail. Right, okay, so what is Tzolk'in about? Tzolk'in it's a multiplayer cooperative game, 2 to 4 players. The objective of the game is to get as many points as you can by the end of the game. The victory points...
Wait.
Well,
you said cooperative game.
Did I? Competitive.
Yeah. Cool.
Sorry. Lack of sleep. This is not a cooperative game. Right, I'll put my teeth in. It's a competitive game. That's what I meant to say. My brain is working at a different pace to my mouth. And feel free to interrupt me if I do anything like that again.
I will.
So, good. Over on the right-hand side, you see it says 0 star. That is your victory points. Okay. The game will play over 2 years. And at the end of the game, the player with the most victory points will win. Most of the points you're going to get is from during the game scoring. There are going to be a little bit of end game scoring. And don't worry if you have 0 points at the end of the first year, because I have seen somebody still win even though they had absolutely nothing at the end of the first year. It's a game where it kind of escalates and you start doing stuff. Okay, that's the very, very high level what you're trying to do. How you get points is by doing a whole host of different actions on the board. And the symbol for victory points, obviously over on Board Game Arena, it's the star, because that's what it is for all games. But if you look at the game itself, the symbol for victory points, you can see them here. On this monument here, this is 0 points, 6 points, 12 points, and 18 points. So anytime you see a number inside what to me looks like a brown square, but it's actually like Mayan symbols or whatever, and you've got them here at the top. These are victory points, these are victory points. Anytime you see a number in a square, that's victory points, okay? And there's lots of ways of getting victory points. So, high level overview of how the game works. I mentioned it plays over 2 years. We actually play one complete revolution of this disc. So we're starting off here. This is like day 1. When we get here, we are halfway through the first year, which is a quarter of the way through the game. And there will be a feeding day where you need to feed your people. Then we do the second quarter of the game, which is here, another feeding day. Then the game switches to year 2. A few little things change. Then we do another quarter, and then the game ends. I think there is something like, I think it's 27 rounds of the game. I think that's what it is. It's a weird number. It's an odd number. But yeah, we go all the way around the wheel. Each round, you will each take a turn, starting with the start player, which it has chosen is Will. Will has the headdress here, so Will is the start player. That can change during the course of the game. You will each take one turn, and then when it gets round to Will again, before Will's turn, the central gear is going to rotate itself counterclockwise. I say counterclockwise for the American audience rather than anti-clockwise, even though American audience is probably asleep. What do you say, Jay? Is it anti-clockwise or counterclockwise?
We actually use both.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. I've started saying counterclockwise more just because I'm writing a lot of rule books and I do them in American. So I've had to tune my brain out of stop using anti-clockwise. Anyway,
Well,
that's basically...
I'm in California, so I appreciate that.
Okay, cool, right. So yes, you will all take one turn, then the central gear will rotate round one, and then we repeat. Okay. So Will's going to take the first turn of the game, and this is going to sound really, really simple. On your turn, you have two choices of things to do, and that's it. You either place workers onto the board or take workers off the board. They are your only choices. You cannot do nothing, and you cannot both take and place on the same turn. So you either put them on the board or you take them off the board, right? Now, the number of workers you have at the start of the game is 3. You see here, it's got worker symbol times 3, okay? You can get more as the game goes on. You can have a maximum of 6. But what's going to happen is on your first turn of the game, you only have a choice of placing workers on the board. You can't take any off because you don't have any off. Now, where it gets clever is that you can place any number of your workers onto the board, but the more you place, the more food it's going to cost you. We haven't actually finished the setup yet. I'll come to that in a minute. But you're going to start the game with a certain number of corn. And where is the player aid? Is there a player aid that I can see on screen? There isn't. Okay, so normally the game comes with a player aid. I don't know if you're able to see it, because I'm in the game as a spectator. But basically the corn cost increases the more workers you place. So if you were to place 1 worker, it doesn't cost you any corn. If you place a second worker, that costs you 1 corn. If you place a third worker, that costs you an additional 2 corn for a total of 3. And it goes up like that. So you can just place 1 worker and then that's it. Or you can place multiple workers, but that will cost you more corn. Where you place your workers is you place them on these 5 outer gears here. And you choose which gear you want to place it on, but you must place it on the lowest costed space of that gear. So if you look carefully, you will see that there is a number around the gear. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This one starts there at 0. This one starts here at 0, here and here. So if Will was to choose the Palenque gear, he would have to put it on space 0. He could not choose to put it on any one of the later ones. If, however, he then decided, I'm going to place a second worker on Palenque, that would go on the next spot. Okay? So if you place multiple workers on the same gear, it's 1 worker per space. You do fill the spaces in clockwise order. And you have to actually pay this cost as well. So as well as the cost, the normal cost for placing workers, which is 0, 1, 3, 6, 10, 15, I think, you also have to pay the cost of the particular space itself. Now, I'm not going to go through every single space in the game. I'm just going to go through them very, very, very briefly. Palenque is where you get corn and wood. Okay, you have to chop down forests and plant corn and things like that. The Yaxchilian gear is where you can get resources. You can get wood, stone, corn, crystal skulls, etc., etc. The Tikal gear is where you can do technological research, which moves you up on this technology track here. Or you can construct buildings. These are the current buildings in play down here. Or you can advance on the temples. The 5th spot is where you can advance on the temples. The Uxmal gear is where you can do a whole variety of different stuff. You can get extra workers, you can advance up the temples, you can trade with the market. Yeah, all sorts of fancy stuff goes on at Uxmal. And finally, the chicken, I call it the chicken pizza gear, but it's the Chichen Itza. This gear is special for a couple of reasons. Because you don't need a crystal skull to place a worker on here, but to take a worker off this gear, you do need a crystal skull. And now that I've mentioned that, I've just realised that there is a bit that I kind of skipped by. At the end of the round, and you've probably worked this out from the cogs, but at the end of the round, I did mention that this central gear rotates counterclockwise 1 space. What that means is all of these gears are going to rotate clockwise 1 space. So basically what's going to happen in the game is you will put a worker on a gear. The longer you leave it, it will move around gradually. And then when you take the worker off, you then get to perform the action of the space. And the actions all get better. The longer you leave the worker there, the actions get more powerful. And you don't pay the cost to take the worker off. This is a common misunderstanding. This cost here, the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, is the cost to place the worker. Taking a worker off a gear doesn't cost you anything, except for Chichen Itza, where you need to place it. You need a skull in order to be... Well, that's technically not true. You can remove the worker without placing a skull, but you just remove the worker, you don't get any benefit. Okay, right, so the final part of setup, I can't actually see on my screen, but the players have each been dealt 4 wealth tiles. So each of them has been dealt 4 little tiles. There's a load of stuff on those tiles. There will be a combination of corn, wood, stone, gold, potentially a crystal skull, and you may also see some technology icons. And you will see that it will look a little bit like this, and that will tell you which of those 4 technological areas that you get a free advancement in. This is agriculture, which is basically whenever you do farming, you get more corn. This is resource extraction. Whenever you get resources, you get more resources. This is the architecture one. Whenever you build buildings, you get a bonus. And this bottom one is the theology one. This gives you bonuses down here on the Chichen Itza, and also getting extra crystal skulls. I wouldn't worry about it too much for the first game. Pick whichever one you like the look of. And the final icon you might see on those wealth tiles is the 3 temples here. Now, I'm going to try and... I was going to say, am I going to have to remember what they're called? I am, because the tooltip is not working. Okay, these are the 3 Mayan gods. Quetzalcoatl is the middle one. I can't remember what the other 2 are called. Apologies for that. So we normally call them the brown one, the yellow one, and the green one. But basically, you will see this icon, or this icon on the wealth tiles. And what that means is you will move up 1 space on the appropriate temple at the start of the game. Moving up on the temples is important. It will score you points and get you resources. There is a plane going overhead at the moment, so apologies for the background noise. There we go. Are there any icons on your starting wealth tiles that I haven't explained?
Yeah, I think there's one on mine which is a little wacky. It's just a dude with what one of your workers requires no corn. Oh, okay.
Correct. It's a farm. Okay, so during the game you can build farms, which are down here. If you choose that starting tile, you have a farm. That means one of your workers, every feeding phase, is automatically fed.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yep.
Oh.
So if you're happy with that, just choose 2 of your own wealth tiles to start with, and then once everybody's, because this is done in secret, and then once that's happened, they will be revealed and everybody will get a load of starting resources. I'm gonna have a drink. Let's flip to the YouTube chat, just see who's here. Yeah, we've got a few people here. Excellent. Thank you for joining in. And Jay, quick question. That greeting that you use,
yeah,
does that translate as something specific?
Welcome to a large group of people.
Okay, right.
So kia ora would be 1 person. Kia ora korua would be welcome to 2 people. Kia ora koto would be welcome to many people.
Right, okay, cool. Right, so I think everybody has chosen their starting tiles and we can now see them down at the bottom. So Will has chosen to get a total of 8 corn, 2 stone, 1 move up on the brown temple, and 1 advancement on the architecture. Jay has gone for a free farm, 6 corn, a wood and a gold, and also architecture. Chrissy has gone for 14 corn, 1 wood, 1 stone, and 1 gold. Okay. Now, the dummy player rules, because we are playing 3-player game today, is you'll notice on these wealth tiles there is a tiny little bit of writing right down at the bottom. For your purposes, as players of the game, you can ignore that. That makes no difference whatsoever. But in a game with fewer than 4 players, you take tiles from the wealth stack at random, and that tells you which spots to place the dummy workers on. So we can see that we have 3 dummy workers on the Axchilian, we have 2 dummy workers here on Uxmal, and we have 1 dummy worker on Chichen Itza. And here's how the dummy players work. Those little markers stay there for the whole of year 1, and basically they block that spot. Now remember, they are going to move around clockwise, but that's it. There's no actual dummy player that's making moves or anything like that. It is just things on the spots, and they move around. Now I said that was for the first year. This is the bit I can't quite remember, is do they stay for the whole game, or do we draw more at the end of the first year so that it's slightly different for year 2? I can't remember that. I will look it up in the rule book, unless, Will, do you know?
I don't recall. I'm looking at
Okay.
the book.
I will dig that out later on unless anybody in the chat can remind me. That's a little bit that I'm rusty on. But for the whole of year one, those workers are going to stay in exactly those positions. And I find the 3-player game of this the best way to play the game, because it means that you actually have a little bit of variety. This game is actually going to be very different because there are 3 dummy workers on your Axchillion. That is going to affect the game quite a bit. Okay, right. So if we're ready to start, it is Will's go. You must place 1 worker on a gear, but you may then place more than 1 if you want to. That's completely up to you.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I'll pull up the rules for Tzolk'in on another window. Okay. So yeah, Will has chosen to place his first worker on the Axchillion, and that's it. So Will has only placed 1 worker, and the cost to place 1 worker is 0, plus the 0 for the space. Jay's also placed 1 worker. Right, Chrissy, I'd like you to place 2, just so that we can see that.
Right.
And I'm not going to give you any tactical advice, but if you want me to clarify again what any of the spaces roughly do, let me know. Okay, so 1 on Palenque, 1 on Tikal, and there we go. Right, so what's happened is the central gear has rotated, and notice this. This is something I didn't mention. Whenever the central gear rotates, what you do before you rotate it is you look over here. If nobody went on this space here, which nobody did, because I didn't actually mention it, 1 corn goes on the central gear, okay? So now I'm going to mention what this space is. If you go on this space, and you would never go on this space on the first turn of the game, which is why I didn't mention it. You probably won't go on the second turn of the game. Sorry, second round of the game. But if you go here, 2 things happen. First of all, you get all the corn that has accumulated on the central gear, and you become the start player. Now you don't, although you physically you don't move the piece immediately, what you do is you leave the worker here, and then when that current round cycle has finished, at the moment it would be Will who would be the first player. Before it's Will's turn, whoever was here takes their worker back and becomes the start player. Okay? There is a third thing that happens as well, but I'll mention that later on. So that is how you become the start player, but you also collect all of the corn that has accumulated. Right, so it's back to Will. Now Will has a choice. He can either take this worker off from here, which would then get him 1 wood, or he can choose to place workers. What are you going to do, Will?
I am going to place a worker.
Okay. And again, it has to go on the lowest available space, which was that one. Okay, so Jay's jumped in on the Axchillion and on Tikal. Now, Chrissy, do you want to place your 3rd worker, or do you want to take workers off?
I'm just trying to decide that right now.
Mm-hmm. There are advantages and disadvantages to both. Obviously, you've gone with lots of initial corn, so you do have a lot more flexibility.
Yep. I'm thinking that I'm probably going to take my guys back.
Okay. Now, when you take your people back, you can take them back in any order, and you can take back as many as you want to. You do not have to take all of them back. So you could just take 1 back and let the rest ride.
Okay. So for the advancing on the technology,
yes. Okay.
What is the payment that you make?
Yeah. So if you were to take this worker back that's currently on Tikal 1, you see there's a little arrow just below the technology track icon. That means you can do 1 advancement. The cost to advance is shown at the top of the column, and you see that there's a square with a question mark in it. That means 1 resource. And a resource is, in this game, it's either a wood, a stone, or a gold. Because in the physical game, they are cubes. You have brown cubes, grey cubes, and gold cubes. So the cost to move from level 0 to level 1 is 1. The cost to move from level 1 to 2 is 2. To move from level 2 to level 3 is 3. And to move from level 3 to level 4 is 1. And I'll come on to level 4 later on in the game because it's a bit special.
So I think I will take this guy back.
Okay. And then which of those technology tracks do you want to advance on?
I think the architecture one.
Okay, so you're all going down the architecture route. Okay, now, a quick note about the technology track. You will notice that there are, oh, breakfast has just arrived. You will notice that there are coloured shadings behind all of the icons. Those coloured shadings refer to the gears. And what it's telling you is where that technology is relevant. And on the architecture track, you'll notice two colours. You notice like an orangey red and a yellow. That's because there are two ways in the game that you can build buildings on the TCAL track, or you can also build a building on Uxmal Space 4. So yeah, the coloured shading there is helpful because it tells you, yeah, which of the gears those technologies refer to. Okay, so are you leaving the other one to ride?
I am, yes.
Yeah, okay. So that's your go done. The central gear is rotated and it is back to Will. And again, Will has got the flexibility now. He can either place the third worker or take one or both of his workers back.
I'm going to place my third worker.
Right, I'm searching the rulebook for the dummy workers and I can't find anything that says that they are removed and changed. I think I'm getting confused with Teotihuacan when you do change where the dummy workers are at the end of each era. So, right, what have I missed? So Will placed the third worker. Jay, what did you do?
I just pulled someone off the grain track, the green track to get full grain.
Right, okay, so let's just go through that quickly. So you took the worker off here and you got the 4 corn, and you notice what's happened is one of these markers got removed. So in a 3-player game... Oh, somebody's got my audio. Has somebody taken their headphones off? Okay, maybe somebody's just popped in the Discord chat. Yeah. Okay. There we go. I think that was somebody popping in the Discord chat who had the who had the audio on. I think it might have been Dominic. Anyway, right, I've muted him. So that's that sorted. Yeah, what was I saying? Yes, so in a 3-player game, there are 3 tiles in each area. In a 4-player game, there will be 4 tiles. And every time you take corn from this space, one of these tiles gets removed. Okay, you have harvested some corn. That does 2 things. The first thing it does is the tile has been removed, which means there are only 2 tiles left. If there are no tiles there, you cannot take corn from this space. It is a limited amount of resources, okay? The second thing that happens is if we scroll down, we will see that Jay has one of these corn harvest tiles here. Now that is only relevant if a particular monument is in the game. And that monument, there are 13 monuments in the game. 5 of them have been chosen at random because it's a 3-player game. And the one that will give you points at the end of the game for those harvest tiles is not in the game. Therefore, that tile is actually completely irrelevant. But the rules say you take them and put them in front of you. While we're here, the monument that gives you points for the wood tiles is also not in the game as well. Okay, and I'll come on to the wood spaces later. Right, whose go is it? It's Chrissy's go.
It's my turn, yep.
Yeah, so you have to take workers off. So...
I can place.
Or do you? Or have you placed?
I've just placed. I'm just about to end my turn.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, you've just placed. So if you end your turn, it is now Will's go. So again, nobody went on this space, which means there's now 3 corn that has accumulated on the central gear. Okay, so Will, you don't have a choice. You have to take your workers off. Or at least one of them anyway.
Thank you. Remove the worker from this track.
Okay, which gets 1 gold and 2 corn.
I'm happy with that.
Okay, let the other ones ride. Okay, Jay.
Yep.
Place or take them off?
So the current thing on the brown tile I'm on, that is construct a building paying the cost. The costs are the things shown at the bottom.
Yep, well, shown the buildings are all at the bottom, but the cost of them is at the top. So the top of each of those buildings, that's the cost to build the building. What it does is in the bottom.
Right. So I'm thinking of removing a worker from the brown tile. That would allow me to build something. I've got 1 wood. I could build another corn-free
farm.
worker.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah. That seems like a plan.
Okay.
And I'm going to build that one. Yeah.
Okay.
That seems relatively efficient.
Yeah. Right. Now notice what's happened. There were 6 buildings out, but at the end of a turn, if there are any gaps here, they get replenished. There's a big tile of building tiles for year 1, which is where we are now. And yeah, whenever you take one at the end of your turn, you refill any gaps. The monuments, however, they are the 5 monuments for this game. They do not get refilled when eventually somebody builds a monument. Okay, right, back to Chrissy. So you have to take workers off. Would you like me to explain Palenque Space 4 before you do?
Yes, please.
Okay, so now that you are in the area where there are forests, and this is quite cool. I like this rule thematically. You have a choice. You either take 3 wood by chopping down the trees, and you will take one of these harvest tiles, which we know doesn't actually have any effect on the game, but you get a harvest tile and you will get 3 wood. What then, you can't see this because we're playing digitally, but underneath each of these wood tiles is a corn tile. And that represents the fact that you've cleared the forest and you've now got land where you can actually plant crops. So the reason it says 7 corn or 3 wood is once you have taken this wood tile, underneath it is a corn tile, which you would then be able to take for 7 corn. However, you have a choice. If you wanted to, you could decide, rather than nicely chopping down the forests and, you know, getting wood and everything else, you could burn the forest right now and take the 7 corn. But if you do that, it angers the gods. And when I say the words anger the gods, what I mean is you choose one of the god tracks and you move your little marker down 1 space because you have angered them. So if you really need the 7 corn right now, you could burn the forest down, or you could just chop the trees down and get the 3 wood. Your choice.
I don't feel very much like angering the gods, so...
I mean, I did it Wednesday last week, and the repercussions were not good. Yeah. Okay, there you go. So you've taken the 3 wood, and you can see that that corn harvest tile has now been revealed. Okay, do you want to take any more workers off or leave them on?
I think I'm going to leave them on there.
Yep, okay. So we now have 4 corn accumulating. Right, at this point, I'm going to mention a little bit more about feeding, because I already said when we get to here, you're going to have to feed your workers. But I didn't really go into much detail. It's 2 corn per worker, unless you've got a farm, because Jay's now got 2 farms, so 2 of his workers are automatically fed. If you don't have the corn, you lose points, and you can go below 0. And I think it's 3 points. It's either 3 points for each worker you can't feed, or 3 points for each corn. And I'm just going to check that. But basically, avoid it. Always make sure you've got enough corn to feed your workers, because if you don't, yeah, the points lost is quite bad. Mm. So yeah, most people normally avoid it. Back on. So yeah, hello everybody watching on YouTube. Thank you very much for that. I've never had that kind of technical issue before. Where my entire computer just completely died. Not just the software this time, the whole computer. But we are back. So yeah, thank you for bearing with us. And if you are watching this not live, I'm probably going to edit that bit out of the video. So you're probably thinking, why is Paul talking about his computer crashing? I'm actually going to chop this bit out of the final video. Anyway, previously on Tzolk'in, where were we? It was Chris's go.
Yeah. And I have just removed my worker from Tikal.
Yeah.
And built the building which costs 3 wood. So I'll just end my turn so you can see that.
So which building have you just built? This one. Right, okay. So what this has done is it has given you 1 free agriculture technology advance.
Yep.
And it also gave you a stone.
Yes. Okay.
Now the agriculture advance level 1 means that anytime you harvest corn from the jungle, which is here, you get 1 extra corn. And a quick note about Palenque Space 1. You'll notice it's blue rather than green. Thematically, this represents fishing rather than harvesting corn from the fields, which changes. There's two slightly different rules for the fishing. One, it's an unlimited supply, so there's no tiles to take, and two, it is not affected by agriculture level 1. That only applies to the green shaded spaces. Okay, so a couple of extra rules that we haven't mentioned since we are now 5 or 6 rounds into the game. If you ever have a worker on space 7 of a gear, when the central gear would rotate, that worker is kicked off. Okay, it doesn't stay on the gears and ride around it. So if you haven't taken it off before the end, it actually just gets kicked off and returned to you. So try and avoid that happening if you can. The other thing is, as you've probably worked out by now, corn is the currency of the game, and you will need corn obviously to place your workers on the board and to do various other things and to feed your workers. However, if you are ever in a position at the start of your turn where you have fewer than 3 corn, you can beg. Now, when you beg, you anger the gods, which means you move down on one of the god tracks, but you then get corn so that you then have 3 corn. So if you are going to beg, the best time to do it is when you've got nothing, because then you get 3. Whereas if you were to beg when you've got 2 corn, you only get 1. But yeah, if you are critically short on corn at the start of your turn, begging for corn is a way that you can actually get some extra corn. Right.
I'm getting an Agricola vibe out of that. Mayan misery farm.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Will's go. Will has to pick up workers.
Off of Uxmal to pick up a new worker just in time to feed him in a few rounds.
Okay. Are you able to turn your microphone up at all, Will? It's a bit quiet.
I will see if I can do that.
Okay, so yeah, Uxmal space 3 is get 1 extra worker. So you now see that Will has 2 workers here, but he's also got 2 on the board. So yeah, Will now has 4 workers, which gives a lot more flexibility. Okay, Jay's taking corn. He's got a crystal skull. Right, I'll tell you what crystal skulls do very quickly, because I've kind of mentioned them down here, but also at the end of the game, every crystal skull you have is worth 3 points. So if you don't do anything with it, it's worth 3 points at the end of the game. But the main thing is you go onto Chichen Itza, let it ride round, remove when you remove the worker, you place the skull, and you actually place the skull on the board, and it blocks that spot for the rest of the game. You have gone into the caves and you've planted the skull there, and that's it, or something like that. I'm not up on my Mayan culture. Right, Chrissy, what you gonna do?
Right, I am going to. That's a very good question. Place a worker on the Chichen Itza track. And I think that might be it this turn.
Okay. So you've got this turn, then you've got next turn, and the feeding will happen at the end of the next round.
Okay.
Lots of wood.
Yep.
Okay, back to Jay. Okay, and you have the choice of placing or picking up. He's gone down to Chichen Itza as well. Ah, he's also taken the start player. Excellent. Right. So, Chrissy. Oh, no. Yes, it is now Chrissy. Yeah.
But I'm going to pick up my crystal skull worker.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to take up my worker from Chichen Itza and worship on that little.
Okay, so yeah, what you do
temple.
is you put the skull there, you get 4 victory points, and you get a move up on the brown god temple. Right. Jay, don't click on anything just yet, because there's a rule that I haven't told you. As well as getting all of the corn from the central gear, and you will now become the new start player, you have a choice. You can either rotate the central gear 1 step or 2 steps. The rotation of 2 steps is something that you can do once per game. So in the physical game, you have a player aid, and when you rotate 2 steps, if you choose to do that, You flip that player aid over to say, I've done this, I can't do it again. So you need to look at the board and decide if it is advantageous for you to rotate it twice rather than once. And if it is, he's done it. Now, I'm glad you did that, because you'll notice that we've actually skipped past the feeding day. But you can't actually avoid the feeding. So the feeding is now going to happen at the end of this round because it's skipped past. And it is Jay's go now. Tell us what you were thinking on that particular move. Was it just the fact that you had more workers on the board than other people?
I had 2 workers on the board. Other people had 1 worker on the board. It allowed me to move further along the Chichen Itza track. I've got a crystal skull that I can place on that track later on. Seemed like a pretty good time to do it.
I think it was the right decision. Yeah. Do you want me to explain this last space on Uxmal 5, where you are?
Yeah, I'm just having a look at that now.
It's the most powerful space in the game.
That's what I was thinking.
It's one corn to do anything else of any of the other gears.
Taking a look at all of that, and I'm tempted to get the 4 wood or...
Yeah, the double temple increase is good.
Yeah.
Because there's something else that's going to happen at the end of this turn, which I will mention now, because I was going to mention it, but you've moved it twice.
The double temple advance, though, where's that? Where is that?
It's on TCAL 5.
TCAL 5?
TCAL 5 is a double temple advance. The reason why I'm mentioning the temple advances is, as well as it being a feeding day, you'll notice that there is a brown shaded sticker. That is, the temples are going to pay out resources. So the temples will pay out resources here. And what you do is you look at where your marker is on the temple. The brown one's going to pay out stone. So at the moment, both Chrissy and Will are going to get 1 stone for free from the brown temple. The yellow temple pays out gold, and the green temple pays out wood and skulls. But that's only if your marker is on that spot or higher.
My only problem is it's 1 resource, and I only have a gold.
You do. Yes, that is true. So
is it 1 resource each, or 1 step on 2 different temples for 1 resource total?
It's 1 resource for 1 step up on 2 different temples.
Well, that sounds like a damn good play.
Yeah, and at this point, I always like to brag a little bit, but this not equals to sign here, that's me. I did that. That was one of my development involvements with the game. There's 3 things in this game that I was absolutely responsible for, and that not equals to sign there was me. I drove that in. So yeah, there you go. That's my claim to fame.
Click on that. Click on this. I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to advance. I think I'll go up the 2 tracks you guys aren't going up, and that one.
Okay, right, cool.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty strong move.
Yep.
My turn.
Your turn, and then it'll be Will's turn, and then we'll do the feeding. Which, of course, it's going to do automatically, because we're playing on Board Game Arena.
Yep.
Steve is in the chat asking, is that a New Zealand accent? I assume he's talking to you, Jay, and not Chrissy.
It absolutely is.
Gonna place worker on Palenque. And Upmal. My turn.
Okay. And over to you, Will.
All right.
Okay, so here's what's happened. The gear is rotated, everybody has paid their workers, and then the temples gave out resources. Okay, so before we carry on, I'll just let you know about the next feeding day, because this has a blue background rather than brown. The blue background means that the temples will pay out their victory points and not resources. So the brown feeding days, they pay out resources. The blue feeding days, they pay out victory points. They're done in a slightly different way because the resources, so let's say you were on the 6 point step of the brown temple, you would actually get 2 stone. But when we come to when there's a brown feeding day, when there's a blue feeding day, you only get the points equal to the space. It's not cumulative. So what I'm saying is the resource payouts are cumulative, the victory points payouts are not cumulative. But also, you'll notice at the top of the temples there is points there, and that is the left hand one is for whoever is the highest on that temple at the end of year 1, and then the right hand one is whoever is highest on that temple at the end of year 2. So yeah, there is sort of there is that scoring there as well. And there is one more rule that I haven't explained that I could have done and possibly should have done. Whenever you take your workers off a gear, you actually have the option of using a previous space if you want to. Now, most of the time you wouldn't do that, but there is an opportunity. For example, on Yaxchilian, if you went to Yaxchilian because you really wanted a crystal skull, but then because of some mistiming or whatever, you've actually ended up on space 5 instead, when you take the worker off, you can pay 1 corn to effectively take the action of the space prior. And if you wanted to, you could pay 2 corn to take the one prior to that. You have that option every time you take a worker off. If you leave your workers on until the last spaces, it allows you then, the last 2 spaces of each gear allows you to basically do any of the previous ones without having to pay corn to go back. I hope that's clear.
Yep. Now,
Okay.
one of the little vagaries of the game just appears to have popped up, and that's like I can get a jump on the Uxmal wheel by paying a little bit extra. I can pop onto that third spot.
You can, because the first spot is occupied, the second spot is occupied, so there you go, you're straight on there. And if you wanted to, you could also go on the next spot.
I could, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to instead jump on that one.
Yep.
Cost me a bit of corn, but that's what we've got farms for.
Yep. Yep.
Very good call, that one.
I remember when we were working on developing this game, and it was like, yeah, we've got to publish this game in 2012. It has to be published in 2012. Do you know why?
Because otherwise the world was going to end, right?
Exactly, yeah. The Mayan calendar had the world ending in 2013, so we absolutely had to publish this in 2012.
Get where I've got available. It's not too expensive.
Yeah, that first space on Uxmal is quite nice. I mean, it's 3 corn to move up on 1 temple. It's expensive, but it is like a step 1 space. So
Yeah. So take that one back actually, and use that.
Mm-hmm.
Good idea.
So it's 3 corn, move up on 1 temple.
Yep, and I think I will move up on the brown temple
Mm-hmm.
and end my turn there.
Okay. If anybody in the chat knows the name of the 3 gods, I mean, it is in the rulebook. I think it's in the rulebook. As I say, Quetzalcoatl is the middle one. I can't remember what the other 2 were called. But yeah, pop them in the chat. Adam's here in the chat. Good morning, Adam. Thank you for joining in. Right, I'm just looking up down at the bottom of the screen where it says speeding up Tzolk'in gear available and unavailable. So that's what I was mentioning about the player aid being 2-sided. And since I'm mentioning that, you know, I said it's a once per game ability. Kind of lied.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of lied. If you ever move one of your markers to the very top step of a temple, that ability becomes available again. One of those rules that probably didn't need to be there because it doesn't actually change the game that much, but you know, it is in there.
I am gonna take my little guy back from the corn place.
Okay, so it gets you 4 corn. Well, it actually gets you 5
It gets
corn.
me 5, yeah.
Yeah, because of your agriculture.
Yep.
Okay, back to Will.
Pick up that guy for some resources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're doing okay now for wood and stone and gold. Corn's your shortage at the moment, isn't it?
Yep. I'm going to let the other guys ride for now.
Okay. So the other way that you can get lots of corn in this game is this market space here that we've not really covered, but Uxmal Space 2 is the market, and the actual exchange rate for the market is printed just to the left of the technology track. And basically you can go to the market and exchange corn for resources, or resources for corn, or both in one action. So you go there, you go to the market, and you can do lots and lots of trading. It is one way that, yeah, if you're going with not farming strategy, you can just resource collection and then go to the market and get loads of corn that way.
Please.
Right, so Johnny's here. Quetzalcoatl, Cuculan, Cuculan, oh, I can't pronounce it, and Chak. Oh, Chak is an easy one. Chaac. I should have been able to remember that one. Kukulkan. Yeah, that's it. Quetzalcoatl is the easiest one for me to say because, yeah, I've come across his name a few times in other games. Right, so 2 turns left before we do the second feeding phase, and that's the end of year 1. Quick thing, just at the end of year 1, all of these buildings here are going to disappear because there is an extra stack of buildings for age 2. So if there was any of these that you really wanted, now is the time to get them. We also haven't mentioned monuments, but I'm happy to mention monuments whenever you want me to. And just for anybody who is watching this, yeah, we are playing on Board Game Arena, and we are obviously playing live, but you can play this game on Board Game Arena asynchronously. I'm playing many games at the moment on various platforms asynchronously, and I wake up in the morning and I just get a notification, oh, it's my turn, I do my turn, and then it's done. Because a lot of people don't have the time to sit at a computer and play games like this, including myself normally. But by playing these games asynchronously, it means I'm playing like, you know, 5 different games a day. I just do 1 turn a day. And then I say done, and, you know, the system sends a message to whoever's turn it is next. So yeah, you can play asynchronously as well as live. So Chrissy has gone on the start player space. So you're going to have that option, Chrissy, when it's your... as soon as Will's taken his turn to rotate it twice if you want to. Will's built a monument. So at this point, we probably should explain how the monuments work. So the monuments can only be built on TCAL Space 4, which is either build 2 buildings, construct 2 buildings, or construct a monument, okay? The reason why there is a tiny little icon over the second building, if you were to construct buildings, is you do not get the architecture bonus again for the second one. It's too powerful. If you were to get it for both buildings, it would be too powerful. Instead of constructing 2 buildings, you could construct a monument. It's almost the same in the fact that the cost is at the top, although they're really, really expensive. But what monuments do is they are end game scoring tiles. And if you move your mouse over them, it tells you exactly what you're going to, you know, exactly what the criteria is for scoring points. So yeah, monuments are end game scoring tiles, and they do not get replaced when they get taken. So the 5 are chosen at the start of the game. In a 3-player game, there'll be 5. They are the monuments for the whole game. So which one have you built, Will? You built the one that gives you 4 points
Built
for
one that gives
every...
me points for green buildings.
All green buildings and monuments. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, is it rotating once or twice?
Oh, that's the question, isn't it?
Just an extra quick note, since we are doing a full teach today, and this rarely occurs, but I'm going to mention it now. If anybody's worker right now was on space 6 of any gear, you are not allowed to rotate it twice. Okay?
Okay.
So it must rotate once, and if somebody had a marker on the 7th spot, that one rotation would kick them off, but you cannot voluntarily rotate it twice if that second rotation would kick somebody off.
Okay. Okay. So what is the difference between rotating once and twice? Just move things further.
Yeah, it just moves everything through it. But what it's going to do in this case is it's exactly the same as when Jay did it. If you do it now, oh no, it's actually not going to change. The feeding phase is going to be at the end of the next turn anyway, so it's not going to bring that any further forward. But it also shortens the game. Yeah, the game is now actually only going to be 26 rounds instead of 27 because Jay's rotated it. He's done a double rotation. It's normally, the double rotation is something you need to be careful of at the end of the game. If you've timed out exactly what you're going to do for the last 3 rounds, and then somebody does a double rotate at the end of the game, you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, you've got to really be careful of that.
Okay. Well, I'll be nice and only rotate it one day.
Okay, there you go. And it is now you as the start player. I mean, that corn boost that you get when it builds up is also quite nice.
Yep.
Right, that's a lot of corn.
It'll have its uses.
It will, yeah. You're going to need it all.
Yep.
I like the fact that if you wait for more than like 10 or 15 seconds, Board Game Arena pops up at the top. This player is not playing. What can I do? Do you want to kick them out? And it's like, just give him a minute, okay? Needs to think.
It's even worse when it's not a training game and you're on
Yeah.
a timer because you
Oh,
see the
yeah.
timer going to red and it's like, no.
Oh, I hate timers in games.
Yeah.
I can see why they're there, and I know some groups have said we've got to always play with a timer because there are just slow players, and I get that. I just don't like time pressures in games where you've got to plan things.
Okay, I'm going to try something that involves timing, so let's see how this works.
Okay, do you need to ask anything beforehand, or are you all sorted?
I'm going to lift from Takal 1 in order to
Yeah.
advance the tech track to Architecture 2. Then
Yeah.
I'm going to build on Takal 2 and get the victory points.
Yes, that's going to work. And that also allows me to explain something about the technology tracks that I haven't explained yet. Once you have reached Architecture Level 2, they're all cumulative. All of the benefits of all of the spaces are cumulative. So once you've got Architecture 2, every time you build a building, you will get 1 corn and get 2 points.
Yeah. I'm just going to build another farm because I've just decided I'm going to go for a not a lot of workers strategy. That's my thing.
Right. It's going to cost you 2 resources.
Oh, 2
to get.
resources.
2 resources. Any 2 resources.
I thought it was 1.
No, it's 2 for level 2.
Okay. Then I'm not going to build that second building. That's fine. Okay, that's still cool. That's still cool.
Yeah, just hang fire with that one. Yeah. There we go. Right. So it looks like, I think, we have just had the end of the first era. Yeah, so lots of things have just happened automatically. The first one is the buildings down here have all changed. These are now Age 2 buildings, which you see are a lot more powerful. The temples have paid out their points. So Chrissy got 4 points for this temple. Will got 2 points for this one. Jay got 1 point for this one, 1 point for this one. And then everybody had to feed their workers. And it looks like Will lost a lot of points then.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Yeah, you lost 12
Ouch.
points because you couldn't feed 4 workers. Ouch. And we are now in age 2. Yeah.
My turn to place or take workers, so...
Yeah.
Pop a worker here. Into Cal. And... Chichen Itza. And end my turn.
So you're going to need to get another crystal skull at some point. Okay, there we go. You guys are rocking now. You got any questions about the game at all so far? Is there any spaces you want me to explain in more detail, or is the tooltips quite good?
Tooltips on this are really, really good. Like, once I've got the basics, I'm like, oh, cool, I can just mouse over that thing.
Yeah.
Bro.
There are certain games which are easier to play online, and the fact that you can just move your mouse over it and it tells you exactly what that does is like, okay, yeah, I can see this. Oh, I just noticed in the top left it says day 16 of 27. Okay, so there you go. It is 27 days normally, and we're on day 16.
Worker back from Tikal to move on a track, and I'm going to go up the theology.
Okay, so this first space in theology is one of the most difficult spaces to explain. But basically, I mean, the tooltip says it. It's whenever you were to take your worker off in Chichen Itza, you can take them off from a space, one space higher than where you actually are.
And then I'm going to remove my guy to get a crystal skull.
There you go.
Seems like a good
Okay.
idea. And end my turn.
I think Jay's about to do something that I always like to try and do in games, which is just to get a crystal skull on the last space in Chichen Itza. It's like a personal achievement.
'Twas the plan.
Yeah, it's a nice boost of points. It moves you up on Quetzalcoatl and gets you a resource of your choice. So it's quite good.
Choose resources of my choice. I think I'll take gold.
Mm-hmm.
And... yeah, I think I'll just do that.
So a question for people in the chat who have played both Tzolk'in and Teotihuacan. Let us know which your favourite one is and why. If you haven't played both, quickly go and play both. Come back in the chat and then let me know. Oh, B's here. Hi, B. Thank you for joining in. Glad with this training game. Good. I'm glad it's useful. This is the style that I normally use when I'm demoing games at conventions. I wouldn't really use this style with my regular play group unless they wanted me to. But certainly when you're at a busy convention, I personally don't believe that sitting down and listening to a 30-minute rules explanation when you just want to play a bit of the game to see what it's like, I don't think that's the best way. So I use this method for teaching games. We would normally, if I was to demo this game at a convention, we wouldn't normally play beyond the end of age 1, because I feel that at that point you're going to know whether you like the game or not, and we just drip feed the rules as we play. Yeah, I mean my first play of any game I write off as a learning game, you know, and I'm more than happy just to bumble through it, get to the end of it, and go, right, now I know how to play the game. You know, let's now play the game. But I know other people who absolutely want to know every single rule in every single minute detail before they even move a piece, and that's fine. If they want to do that, that's absolutely fine. But yeah, each to their own.
All right, I think I've got a pretty strong move happening here.
Okay.
So I'm going to just. Yep, I think I'm going to
a double
pick
temple
up.
increase.
Yeah, I can't afford to do both, unfortunately. Oh, because I've got Uxmal 5 and TCal 5.
Yeah.
But I can't afford to do both,
No.
Unfortunately. So
Otherwise,
I'm going
that would have been awesome.
Yeah, that was the plan, but I miscalculated my resources
Right.
by turn. I wanted to be round on the green one step further.
Yeah,
I
to get some wood.
stuffed that up slightly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is pull
It
from.
only costs you corn though.
What does?
Uxmal 5.
He's got the corn.
Corn.
Yes.
Yeah, but then I can't use TCal 5 twice.
Yeah, he wanted to do TCal 5 twice.
Yeah, so instead I'm going to go there, and I think I'm going to, I don't know, get another crystal skull. That could be a plan. Yeah, let's do that. Do we have enough time left in the game? Yes, we do. So I'm going to get a crystal skull, and then I'm going to pick up that guy and that one, spend that gold I just got, and go up those two.
Nice.
Oh, did I just get a gold from doing that? No. Okay, cool. Yeah. No,
so another quick rule about the temples, okay, which is fairly obvious, I think, from the graphic design, and this is me bragging again, but the fact that there is only one space at the top of each temple, that was my suggestion. It didn't used to be like that, and then they had complicated tie-break rules for if multiple people were on the top space, and then I was in the development meeting, and I suggested, well, because it's a temple, why don't you just have one space at the top? And they went, oh, yeah. And that was it. It was like the easiest suggestion that I've ever had accepted. I didn't need to justify it. I just said, wouldn't it be cool if? And they all went, yep. And that's it. And then it got into the game. So, and lots of games, to be fair, use that idea. So it's not like a new idea or anything. But yeah, I suggested that.
Terra Mystica does a similar thing.
Terra Mystica does the same? Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming I didn't come up with it because Terra Mystica came after this. I'm sure it's been used in other games, and I just basically stole it from them and put it in this one. But it's been used, yeah, it's used a lot.
I think it's a good thing to do. It encourages a little bit of a race as well.
Yep, yeah. Well, I was thinking of it thematically because it's a pyramid, so that's how I was thinking of it.
Just trying to decide which of the Chichen Itza ones I want to put a skull on. We'll pop on there. Advanced on the resource extraction.
Okay, so that means anytime you get wood from either Palenque or Yaxchilian, you'll get one extra wood, but only when you get wood. So if you decided to go to Yaxchilian and take stone, you would not get the extra wood. Okay, game's flying along now. Are you going to try and get that one to the end as well, Jay?
I'm going to try and let it ride as far as I can.
Yeah. Okay, day 19. I'd got a 3-hour slot booked out for this morning, just in case, because I was actually thinking of not using Board Game Arena and using the physical game, but I'm glad we're using Board Game Arena because it's a really good implementation. And yeah,
this is solid.
Yeah, it's really good.
I'm quite impressed with this.
What we need now is we need somebody who can do that sports commentary voice over the top, who can narrate what's going on. Like Tzolk'in is some kind of international sport or something. Let's just check the chat messages to see what people have said. Brett is saying probably Teo, but haven't played, but played Tzolk'in a long time ago. John is talking about the learning game. Yep. Ian says he really likes both. Teo's the annoying fiddliness when you have to remember several things to do. Yep, I have that same issue. So Tzolk'in is less fiddly. Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, I like both, and I think Teo is. I'd have to sit down and play both a number of times over the same weekend, and then be able to properly evaluate it. At the moment, I would probably lean towards Teo, despite the extra fiddliness. But yeah, maybe just because I've not played this for so long.
Of planning the gears introduced gives it the edge over Teotihuacan.
Say that again?
I've not played that one either. Yeah.
I think that the level of strategy the gears involved gives that an edge up over Teotihuacan.
Right, okay.
I mean, I'm finding this really cool. I love the interconnecting things and going, right, I need to do this in 5 turns.
Yeah.
That's a great decision space.
Yeah. And it's really interesting for me because I can't play games like chess because it requires thinking more than 1 or 2 moves ahead. Yet in this game, I don't have a problem with that because I put it on and I go, right, I'm going to leave that one there for 3 turns. And I can sort of do that. So I am planning a few turns ahead and I have no problem with it in this game. Whereas other games, yeah, anything more than 1 or 2 moves ahead and my brain just can't function. So... yeah, I mean, it's such a simple core concept. If you can either put workers on the board or take them off, and you're like, oh, right, that's simple. But then it's like, but if you do put them on, you can put 1 on, or 2 on, or 3 on. And if you take them off, you can take 1 off or 2 off, and the order and suddenly the decision space and the amount of choices grow. God, look at all that corn. I was going to say somebody's going to grab that. Get it before Will gets it.
Oh, I wonder who that would be.
And it's going to be a feeding day as well. So it's going to be a feeding day, and all of these temples are going to pay out their resources as well. And then we will be 3/4 of the way through the game. Right, I'm just going to put my microphone on mute for a minute while I just have some breakfast.
Thankfully, we're not cutting to breakfast cam.
Jamie Stegmaier, apparently this one is his 2nd or 3rd best game. Okay, cool. I didn't realise that.
Yeah, I think I might have to get a copy of it physically.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's nice, yeah. And you've got to paint the gears as well. You have to paint the gears. It's a law, I think.
Okay, I like painting
I
games.
bought a whole pile of paints to paint my gears about 3 years ago, and the paints are still in their containers.
Oh, yeah. I spent a couple of weeks painting mine because I was doing demos of this game at conventions. So I painted the gears not only because I wanted to and they look nice, but I was actually using my physical copy to demo the game at conventions. But then of course I had to have a big sign saying, "Note: this game does not come with painted gears," because people saw it and was like, "Oh, that looks really nice," and I was like, "Yeah, sorry."
So
Okay,
it's the big molded plastic bits in the middle, and the actual gears, they're all a solid plastic?
They are solid plastic, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, so the detail on the screen looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they look like. They've scanned in a physical version of it.
To do something with them to stop them just looking like blobs in the middle of the board.
And this is why I own an airbrush, because that'll take me like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, remind me afterwards and I'll send you the pictures of the ones that I painted, which I dug out for you, Chrissy, a couple of months ago, didn't I?
You did, yeah.
Yeah.
I have them saved on my phone as inspiration.
Ah, right. Well, send it to the Discord chat later on, because it'll be easier
Will
for
do.
you to find them than it will be for me to dig through my old photos. Okay, so Will's doing some technological research. Do you want me to mention technology level 4?
On accident.
Oh, right, okay.
Technological on accident.
Yeah, I'll talk about technology level 4 because we haven't actually mentioned it. It might not come into play, but I'm going to mention it now anyway, obviously for you and for anybody watching. But once you've reached technological level 3, if you want to go to 4, you pay 1 resource, and what happens is you get the benefit of the level 4 space, but your marker stays on the level 3 space. So you can keep bouncing it up. Each time you get a technology advance, you can take the level 4 advance and it just bounces back. And it stays on 3. Yeah, the level 3 ones are really powerful, especially the building one. If you're going down a building strategy, the level 3 architecture is really powerful. John is in the chat saying that the painting has been on plan for a while, but then he got Midara. Yeah.
Having to think this turn.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's only going to be 6 turns left, or 6 rounds left after this.
Yeah, that's the headspace I'm in. I'm just kind of doing some last second calculating. There's also, we're paying food this round?
Yes, at the end of this round, which is
yeah,
at the end of your turn.
So 2 food per worker, -1 per farm. So I'm only going to have very little food left. So yeah, I probably should have grabbed all that bonus corn that was lying around. But instead, I'm just going to harvest that to wood.
And Will got the big farm that feeds 3 of his workers automatically. Okay, so there we go.
I'm really glad I got those farms at the start of the game.
Yeah. So the corn has been paid for the feeding. The resources have all been given out based on the temples. So everybody got some free stuff.
One quick...
Go on.
The game.
Oh, say that again. Your microphone cut out at the start of the question.
Sorry. Is there a feeding action at the very end of the game?
Yes, there is.
So I need to keep some corn in reserve. Cool.
Yeah. Is Chrissy advancing it twice?
That is the question. No.
Okay. Right, so we're in the last quarter of the game now. Nobody's gone for agriculture level 2, so I haven't had to explain that one, but again, I will for those people who are watching. Agriculture level 2 gives you the crop rotation technology, and what that means is that you can harvest corn from an area that no longer has any harvest tiles. Oh, you also get 1 extra fish when you go fishing as a sort of extra special ability. But yeah, that agriculture level 2 allows you to take corn if there was no corn left. Agriculture level 3 is amazing because remember, these are cumulative. So agriculture level 3 essentially means you get 3 extra corn every time you take corn from the jungle.
Grab my worker from Uxmal.
Okay, which is pay 1 corn to do any of the other abilities.
Yep. And I think I'm going to do T-column number 5. For 2 different temples. I'll take brown and green.
Okay.
I think I'm okay for corn just now, so end my turn.
And obviously this game is the game that put Daniel Tascini on the map. I mean, it's you know, he's gone on now to do lots and lots of other games, normally that start with a T that nobody can pronounce, but yeah, he's kind of famous for it now. But this is the one that started it.
I was just going to say, if this was his first design, that's kind of impressive.
So it's Yeah, I mean, I think it's his first published game. He did work on this with Simone Luciani. I don't know how much the split was, but it was Danielle who was in the he was the one that was in the meetings with CGE. He's the one who was there during the development meetings. But I think the core design was him and Simone, and then Danielle came to pitch it to CGE. I mean, Simone wasn't really a known name really back in 2011, 2012. So yeah, this game did wonders for them. But yeah, when Danielle brought it to us, I mean, it's different from what the final version was, because there was quite a lot of development work that went on it. There was an extra little gear, for example, which was on there, and yeah, there was some extra bits, but a couple of fundamental rules of the game changed. We can talk about it later offline, but yeah, there was the core concept was the same, but there were a couple of major rules which were totally flipped on their head. Because yeah, once the game entered the CGE development process, it was completely broken. And Daniel was like, but I've been playing this game for months, and suddenly you've broke the game. And we were like, yeah, but we can fix it by just doing this. And he was like, oh yeah. So yeah, that was an interesting meeting. That was when I was really just first getting into game development. So I learned a lot from, being around those people and being involved in those meetings, listening to Vlaja analyze a game after just playing it once. And the way his brain works was, yeah, very impressive. Right. Meanwhile, what's been happening in the game?
I just advanced up some temples.
Right. Yeah, you're looking strong for those points for Quetzalcoatl at the end of the game. Don't think anybody's going to be able to catch up with you on that now.
I'd have to hope not.
Yeah. So Jonathan is in the chat from the Hexabeast. He says he hopes to meet Vlaja one day. Yeah, if you do meet Vlaja, bit of advice: don't go at him like you're a complete fanboy and say, oh, you're amazing and everything else, because it actually makes him feel quite uncomfortable. Just be very, very down to earth and say, hi Vlaja, my name's Jonathan. Pleased to meet you. I really like your games, and just don't go overboard, because he's not very keen on that kind of thing. He's just a guy who just likes to make games that people enjoy playing. Very, very humble individual, but very, very intelligent. Got a lot of respect for him.
I don't know if I've met or talked to any game designer who isn't like that.
Okay.
Like, who isn't sort of awkward and a little bit sort of, please don't fanboy at me.
Right. I've met a few. So, yeah.
See, I imagine it more in content creators acting like rock stars and designers.
Right.
Not us, of course, but
no.
others.
Although I did used to be an international rock star back in the 90s. So yeah.
You did.
Well, so I was in a rock band, okay.
Yep.
And we played gigs in the UK, Ireland, and in Germany.
Oh, nice.
Therefore, I'm an international rock star. So
Yep.
Yeah, it was a covers band. We did a few of our own tracks, but yeah, we were mainly a covers band. But yeah, in a former life.
So, Crystal Skull's worth stuff at the end of the game, right?
3 points, yeah. You can actually see down in the bottom left of the board the end game scoring. It's the monuments will score you the points based on what monument it is. Crystal Skulls will score you 3. I didn't mention the other bit of end game scoring because it's normally not that significant, which is all of your resources will convert to corn at the exchange rate of 2, 3, or 4, and then every corn you have is worth a quarter of a point.
Okay.
It's just the usual little bit of points for stuff that you've got left over type of thing.
Ooh, someone's going to be building some stuff.
Yeah. I think Will's going for a second monument.
Yep.
How many workers has everybody got now?
4 for me.
I've got all 6.
I've still got 3.
So Will, you got all 6. Wow. Okay. And there
I
you
just
go.
thought the
You've taken
tiled
that one.
monument gives me points for having my workers.
Yeah, there you go. So that's going to be, yeah, extra points at the end there. Yeah, so the next time you play this, Jay and Chrissy, obviously the game's set up, you look at the monuments. It's one of the first things that you do is you look at the monuments and you're like, right, am I going to try and build one of these or 2 of these? If so, that might then determine what sort of strategy you use for the game.
Yeah. I thought about the workers one, but then I abandoned it mid-game.
Yeah. For your first game, you can just get by the game and not bother building a monument. But yeah, it's one of these games where the first time you play it and you score like 50 points or 60 points and you win and you think, oh, there you go, I won and I got 60 points. Yeah. People who know the game, who regularly play the game, will be scoring 100, 120, something like that. It's a little bit like Terra Mystica in terms of the scoring, that your first games, will be low score. And the more you play it and the more you optimize your choices and you're more efficient with things, yeah, your points will really start to ramp up. So we've got a couple of rounds, a couple of turns each left, and then that is it. And who's the current start player? Will is the current start player.
No, I think it's still Chrissy.
Well, the headdress icon is in front of you.
I don't know how that happened.
Because of a rule I didn't explain. Which I've just reminded myself about. So yeah, thank you for this. If the current start player goes on the start player space, then it rotates clockwise. So that's what happened. So yeah, apologies for not picking that up at the time, but Chrissy was the start player and went on the start player space. So what it did is it moved it to Will.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But still,
In other
it's
words,
worth.
You can't say, look, I'm the start player and I'm going to keep it and I'm going to stop somebody else from stealing it. You can't do that.
Yeah, but there's still incentive to do it because there's corn.
There's corn. Yeah. Okay, so we are on the last day. Off we go then. People's last actions.
This is going to be interesting.
So no point in placing workers.
Nope. No, just take them all off and get as many points as you can with what you can do. Yeah, unfortunately, you don't have the crystal skull for Chichen Itza.
Nope, someone bought a building that would have given it to me.
Oh, good old player
Sorry.
interaction.
So I actually have like a really odd. I might as well just take the start player marker.
Yes.
It'll give me 5 corn. Removing my worker will give me 4.
No, removing your worker won't give you any, because all the harvest tiles have gone. So yeah.
Why not?
Okay, and thanks to the theology, you can actually use the action space on Chichen Itza 1 higher, and because of theology level 2, you can now also pay a resource to gain a temple increase. There you go. Top spot. You'd have actually been better going up the green one, because you were already the highest on the brown temple, so that actually just got you an extra 1 point, whereas the green would have got you an extra 2.
Oh, okay.
It's okay.
What can I do with this guy?
So this space here, I like this space, we've not explained this space yet. It's build a building but instead of actually building it yourself, you pay Dave. You know Dave next door?
Yep.
Okay, so what you do is you work out the resource cost that it would be to build the building, and you actually pay him 2 corn for every resource. So you could build it. You could build this building, the 4th one along, for 4 corn, for example. Of course, you've got to make sure you've got enough corn to feed your workers. But
Yep. I
But that
was
last
toying
building
with the
is-
idea of climbing up 1 step on the temple for 3 corn, but then I'd be 1 corn short. Bit of a pain in the
Right.
butt.
So yeah, I mean, you could build the 2nd building along, which would get you 6 points for building it and allow you to go to the market, and then you use the market to ditch any remaining resources and convert them into corn, which gives you then enough to feed your workers.
2nd building that costs 3 stone, which I don't have.
No, but you're paying Dave.
Oh yes.
Yeah, you're not actually paying in any resources whatsoever. You're just paying in corn.
Right. That's a good idea, I think. So we'll do that and build that one.
Good old Dave.
Yep.
So I'm thinking Dave's either an Amish farmer or a giant chicken.
We'll go with the giant chicken. Yeah.
I only need 8 to feed my guys, don't I? Do any of the other resources count for anything at the end? Or is it just
Yeah, all the resources convert to corn, and then every corn is a 1/4 of a point.
Okay. Okay. So, and end my turn.
And that is it. So it's obviously done all of the final scoring, and the game has disappeared. Nice. So, we can do final situation. There we go. Okay, so Jay wins with 67, Chrissy with 47, and then Will with 27. So,
But you said like 80 to 100 is like actually a good score.
yeah, as I say, sort of around 60 to 70 for your first game is good. But if you play this again right away, you're going to be scoring 80, 85. Okay? And then when you think about it and you think, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to go with a heavy corn strategy. I'm going to get level 3 agriculture, and then I'm going to absolutely hammer the corn. Then I'm going to go to the market. I'm going to get loads of resources. Then I'm going to build 10 buildings. I've seen somebody build 10, 12 buildings in a game. And when you first start playing it, you think, how is that possible? And then all of a sudden, somebody just chains everything together, and you think, well, you had the same number of actions as me. How have you managed to do twice as much? But, it's one of those Euro games where you can do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there you go.
No,
So
how
was your first game?
Rated.
Was
I thought that was it's really cool. I love the forecasting in the game where
Right.
what I got tripped up on the start was like, oh, I'll just place my workers. And I'm like, actually, no, that's costing me extra resources. And then I'm having to pull them off earlier. So I think just playing 1 or 2, just one, let it ride, one, let it ride, one, let it ride, and then start pulling them off. Probably a much better way to open up than what I did.
Right. Okay. I mean, remember, this was a learning game. I hadn't explained all of the rules before we started. So next game.
It's not a criticism, Paul. It's more of a sort of reflection on understanding. One of the things to understand a game for me is understanding its timing and its pacing.
Right.
And this game is all about that timing and pacing.
Yeah.
So getting that familiarity. As the game went on, I was just like, okay, this is cool. Like there was one move I did where I wanted to get that double action twice.
Yeah.
And I pulled that off. I just didn't quite have the resources to get everything I wanted from it.
Yeah.
But that was an example of the cool stuff you can do by thinking, 5, 6 turns ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Chrissy, how
I'll
was
hand
your
over
first
to everyone
game?
else.
It was very, very good, actually. I quite enjoyed that. It was, sitting looking at the technologies track to try and maximize what you get back from the wheels.
Yeah.
Is quite good. I quite enjoyed sort of having to pay attention to that while I was doing other stuff.
So the way this works for 2-player, if you were to play this 2-player, is there would be 12 dummy workers on the board instead of 6. Okay, and there would be less harvest tiles here, and there would be 4 monuments instead of 5, and that's it. So it's just basically there's more dummy workers, and as I say, the position of these dummy workers does change the game, because obviously they're blocking spaces, which is bad, but it's also good, because if those 2 workers were on the 0 and the 1 spot, you can jump on and straight away you're on the 2. You've got a head start straight away. So
yeah, which I did at one point. I got a double head start on one of them. It was really good.
yeah. So and yeah, thank you, Will, for joining in. How many times have you played the game, Will?
Absolutely. I've played it many times, but it's probably been 4 years since I've played it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the
But
last time I played it was actually with the expansion.
Yep.
Which, in my opinion, destroys the game.
Oh, right. Interesting. Because most expansions tend to improve on a game.
There's 2 parts to the expansion. I don't know if you've played it or not.
Yep.
The tribes give each player a unique ability. That's great. And the other half of the expansion is called prophecies.
Mm-hmm.
And every round a prophecy comes out. And essentially you either focus some energy to accomplish the goal of the prophecy, or you pay a penalty.
Yeah.
If that prophecy lines up with the strategy you're already working on, that's great. You come out way ahead. Otherwise, you ignore it, and it really kind of, I thought, hamstrings your strategies.
Yep. Yeah, I know people who agree with that. I know people who love the prophecies and what they do, but I also, as I say, I know other people who are in your position. So the prophecies, yeah, they don't come out every round, but they come out at the start of a quarter. And what happens is at the start of the game, you will reveal prophecy number 1, and that prophecy will actually activate at the start of quarter 2. So you always see quite a way ahead of time what's going to happen. But then it basically says, right, so until, while this prophecy is in effect, the cost to do a certain thing is more expensive. But at the end of that quarter, for everybody who has done that certain thing, we're going to give them extra points. And I think I agree with what you're saying, Will. Is it actually... Oh, excuse me. I've got something in my throat. It's a bit of brown flake. What it does is it kind of forces everybody down a particular path. Whereas at the moment, you've got the game that's quite wide open with lots of different strategies. But with prophecies, it's like, okay, so you're all going to get points for crystal skulls placed in Chichen Itza. If you don't do it, you're going to lose points. It kind of makes everybody think, oh, well, I better do that then. So I'm going to stop talking a minute while I have a drink.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, Will. It's a zero luck game. And by adding random elements into it, you can kind of knock the cart over, I guess, or force people down an avenue where they don't necessarily want to go that game. So, yeah, I can see why that would be a problem.
The tribes is interesting, though, the fact that, each player has their own unique player power, which affects the game as well. So, cool. Right, well, let's wrap things up. This video, for those people who are watching it who don't know, is all part of Virtual GridCon, which is a free online gaming convention that I'm running this weekend. There's lots of people on the Discord channel, and there's lots of games being played at the moment, and there's a number of designers, David Turtzi, Vitor Lacerda, various other people who are on the Discord channel playing games with people. I'm doing a whole load of live streaming this weekend. I have a game of Under Falling Skies at 12 o'clock today, so in 1 hour, 15 minutes time, and that is actually with 2 of the kids in Africa, which we're raising money for this weekend. So that's happening at noon. I've then got a game of Railroad Revolution this afternoon, interview with Vitor Lacerda, game of Codenames, and then I'm supposed to be doing Marvel Champions tonight if I'm still awake. I'm going to be live streaming today, but there's lots of other games going on. And more importantly than that, we are running a charity raffle. And the charity raffle is open to everybody around the world. And you do not have to attend Virtual GridCon to donate to the raffle. You can just donate if you want to. We had a goal of £500 that we wanted to raise. And I am just going to have a quick look now and see how much we have currently raised. But if you want to donate to the to the charity, definitely got something in my throat. It's justgiving.com/virtualgridcon. And it's a fundraiser, but we've also got a huge amount of prizes. We've got about £3,500 worth of prizes kindly donated by lots of publishers, clients of mine and other publishers. We've currently raised £6,894. Now, we set the target at 500. I was hoping we'd make about £1,000, maybe £1,500. We've raised £6,894. That makes all of the hard work that I've put into organising this weekend worthwhile. Yeah, absolutely worthwhile. So massive thank you to everybody. And even if you're only able to donate £1, please do so. Some people have been extremely generous on there. I'm not asking everybody to be as generous as everybody else has, but if you've got £1, please pop it on there. Yeah, excellent. Right. Jay, what time is it over there?
Sorry, it is 9:48, and I was just about to say, cracking work on that fundraiser, Paul.
Yeah, thank you.
That's some bloody good money.
And
it's like nearly seven grand in your money, which is like 20 grand in ours.
Wow, yeah. And thank you for your signal boost.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Anytime.
So you've not got much planned for the rest of your day, I guess?
No, I was probably going to go to sleep.
Right. And Will, what time is it where you are?
It's almost 3 in the morning here.
Oh gosh, and what are you still doing up at 3 in the morning?
I'm usually up at 3 in the morning.
Oh right, okay. But yes, presumably you will be heading off to bed as well soon.
Probably soon, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you very much for joining me. And Chrissy, what have you got planned for the rest of today?
Finding some more games to play, I guess.
Yep.
Yep, and sitting around on the Discord channel.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I will see you there. So yes, thank you very much to you three for joining me. Thank you to everybody who is watching in the chat. And yeah, I will see you back here in about an hour and 10 minutes teaching the 2 of the kids in Africa how to play Under Falling Skies. So I will see you then. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Gaming Rules is proudly sponsored by Game Toppers, upgrading your gaming experience. Visit GameToppersLLC.com.